if evolution was true, what would the evidence look like?
Yep.
Well, it just can't be true. That's the problem. It can't be true.
Yeah. So instead of begging the question and just saying it's wrong and it can't be right because I declare it to be wrong, why don't you actually engage honestly? So, if evolution was true, what would the evidence look like? If you don't know, that's fine. I can tell you about it.
I've just said to you that the evidence I can't tell you what the evidence look like because it's not possible. Because when you try to put it
right,
together,
do you know what circular reasoning is?
No, go for it. Give me an explanation on what circular reasoning is.
Oh man. Okay.
So
it is when the thing you're trying to it is when you use the thing you're trying to prove as the evidence of the thing you're trying to prove. Evolution is false. And I can prove to you that evolution is false because evolution can't be true. Therefore, evolution is false.
What? Say it again. I don't think that made sense. I think you just did it backwards. Say it again. Explain it again.
I will in a second. I just need to block some toxic asshole. Anyways, circular reasoning is when you use your conclusion as evidence of the thing you're trying to prove. So in this case, what you're doing is saying...
Okay.
You want me to ask you the question over again?
No, you asked me a question saying what would it look like if it were to be true. So it's a hypothetical anyway. So hypothetical.
Let's apply the way you think to a court of law. This person is being charged as guilty. You're the lawyer for that person. Your Honor, my client pleads innocent. And my client is innocent. I know that my client is innocent because we are claiming that my client is innocent. That is the evidence. In fact, it's not possible that my client is guilty. I rest my case.
Okay, but you asked me what would the evidence look like.
Yep.
And I'm saying that I'm trying to imagine. When I try to imagine what the evidence would look like, I think to myself, well, how could I imagine for something that's impossible to happen? Because I've never seen a cup of tea make itself. So why am I going to assume that life forms create themselves and then all of a sudden spontaneously created all the different variations from the same environment over a long period of time? You're trying to say that time...
Have you read any book ever?
Hold on. Time and environment does not create nothing, my friend. You can have all the time, all the environment you want, and you will have absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
So,
okay.
So you would
no
have,
think. No think. We're seeing plenty of no think here.
Yeah,
anyways, if what evolution tells us is that all life on the planet evolved from an original organism. That is what the crazy evolutionists say, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Now, we can take that claim, and there is evidence that would support that claim. This is how you do science. Now, if everything on the planet originally came from the first organism, what would the evidence supporting that idea look like?
So you're trying to say there'd be some sort of trail that would lead it all back to one remaining source.
That is what the evolutionists say is the case. So what would the evidence supporting that be?
If you assume the outcome if you beg the question and assume the outcome,
this is not begging the question.
Hold on.
It's a hypothesis.
Can you let me finish? Can you let me finish my own?
Buddy,
please.
I have talked to hundreds of people just like you. I know where you're going with this. This fallacy that you accuse science of begging the question or whatever, or confirmation bias. This is not how it works. A hypothesis is a tentative explanation that has not been tested yet. If you find evidence that supports your hypothesis, you're not begging the question. You found evidence for it because we don't know the evidence yet, but we're predicting what the evidence would be. So divorce yourself from that talking point because it's utterly ridiculous. And I can prove that even you don't believe it because we could just apply it to literally anything else. Like the court of law, for example. Somebody is accused of being guilty. And if we find evidence that confirms the guilty charge, then are we begging the question? Are we doing confirmation bias? No. That's not how that works. So we're not doing this.
Okay.
The question remains.
Okay, how long does it take? How long does it take for you to evolve some common sense and allow me to finish to what I'm saying before you try and paint a picture of what I'm actually saying? Maybe because you're
I'm more experienced than you, so okay. I literally don't need you to finish your thought because I knew where it was going 2 years ago when I had talked to the 500th person that made the exact same talking point that you did. And you muted yourself. I didn't mute you, so I don't know what's going on.
I'm muting myself because I don't want to interrupt you.
If everything on the planet does have comes from the original organism in the past, what would the evidence look like?
If life forms were making themselves, then basically we would have some sort of more. We'd have more of an indication of actually things evolving. Like when are you going to evolve some common sense, for example? Are you going to evolve as an ape?
That's fucking precious that you can't do this, dude. True. But anyways, if everything on the planet did come from the original organism, what would the evidence of that look like?
It would look like when people have these spontaneous mutations, women would be giving birth to slightly transitional kind of creatures, but that doesn't happen in reality.
That's called Pokemon. Pokemon is an anime, so it's not science. So I don't know why. I don't know why somebody would say something so humiliatingly stupid. Yes, Pokemon is not science. I agree. Neither is anime. I don't know why somebody would humiliate themselves publicly and make that kind of statement. Then again, I think you might be a flat earther, which is par for the course.
Can you see my picture?
So anyways, I'm going to keep asking the same question until you say you don't know or give a real answer. If everything that is alive today is the descendant of the first organism, what would the evidence look like?
It would look like the signature of the creator that created, like the same with a car. Like you'd have a Hyundai and all the Hyundais. That's what it looked like.
That was a nondescript non-answer. Can you give me? I'm asking you for what would the scientific evidence we could look for to confirm that everything came from the original organism. Creator. What would that evidence look like?
Exactly like it came from the creator. That's what it would look like.
So I'm not telling you that this is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
That's what it would look like. It would look like the creators.
This is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. I asked you for what the secular scientific evidence would look like, and you said it would look like it would look like the evidence of the competing idea. That's insane. The way that you just said the secular scientific data would look like religion. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe you're just incapable of thinking about anything outside of the bubble you live in. I've seen this with flat earth science deniers, though. They literally cannot look at the world through any lens other than their own. So they accuse people of the kinds of fallacies and shortcomings in logical thinking that they themselves have. And they say, oh, well, if evolution is true, then we should see organisms give birth to new organisms, because according to me, the whole universe is only a few thousand years old, so that's the only possible way it could happen. No, you're incapable of applying somebody. You're incapable of looking or trying to hypothetically understand something from somebody else's point of view. It's really tragic. But anyways, I think I've described it to the best of my ability. So now I'm going to ask you the exact same question again. And we're going to see if you can actually get this. So don't tell me that the evidence for the secular scientific account, don't give me magic and God and stupid stuff like that.
When I look at the evidence,
can you in any way think of what the scientific evidence that would support evolution, what it would look like? Can you give one example?
When I look at the scientific evidence of the evolutionary theory, back in the day, your ancestor was a fish that evolved into a land creature.
So, yeah, could you give me what the evidence would look like?
It would look like a fish that evolved into a land creature.
Well, we have that evidence, so congratulations.